Well, good morning and welcome to Breakfast Extra. It's only 10 days into the year, and guess what hot topic has dominated political discussions all week? Well, and the winner is Rivers State politics. It's like that annoying aunt who refuses to go back to the village after Christmas. Her sense of entitlement to your father's wealth has gone to her head. Now she runs her farm from the guest room downstairs, yelling on the phone every morning to Ebuka, with terrible network, by the way, to make sure that she tends to the kitchen wire of the poultry. Well, let's start today with a small class, a governance for beginners type of explanation. Let's think of democracy like a school election. Everybody campaigns, everybody votes. When someone wins, the class rules. No one student decides how things are run. Now, let's imagine a different class, one where one very influential student, because daddy paid for the school football field, funds the posters, he controls who gets chalk and decides who is allowed to speak or get admitted onto the pitch at break time. Before class elections, he quietly picks the class captain with whom he has developed a very close relationship. On election day, everybody lines up, everybody votes, but the results had already been designed by preference. Vote him and you can play on the football field all you want. Now, after he's voted in, the class captain isn't really working for the class anymore. He's working for that one influential class bully who put him there. Dare he try to think on his own, and suddenly the rules change. Football field admittance gone, chalk rations halved, and his name is constantly in the list of noisemakers, even where he's the class captain. Now that is Godfather politics. The election is real, the ballot box is real, but the power behind the scene is even more real. Now let's bring that lesson back home to Rivers State. Here, former governors, well, they remain influential long after leaving office. Political structures are inherited, and like your aunt after Christmas, ownership creeps in. Today, we have a former governor, now a federal minister, still deeply involved in state affairs, chicken wire. Meanwhile, sitting Governor Siminalayi Fubara is trying to carve out his own political space. Along the way, we've seen reconciliation meetings, we've seen shifting alliances, we've seen constant talk of party realignment. One week is PDP unity, the next week is whispers of APC conversations. Impeachment discussions surface as casually as the weather. In fact, Rivers politicians now hold party cards the way PDP members carry umbrellas. Despondently. The House of Assembly plays its own part as well, swinging between cooperation and impeachment signals, reminding everyone that stability is not something that you manage daily, it's something that you have to, well, nurture. It's something you inherit. See, there are levels to this. There's levels to these things. Have we seen this before? Have we, I don't know, have we seen this before? Yes, boom, Lagos. A certain year, another former governor pulled the strings behind the scenes, keeping party structures close. The sitting governor struggled to assert authority, maneuvering carefully to avoid invisible tripwires. Alliances shifted quietly, by the way, and the city watched the next election cycle as it was shaped, not by scandal, not by subtle game of influence and loyalty. Well, hey, it was. All that, just simply games and loyalty. No crisis, just a lesson. And the lesson was that power in Nigerian politics is rarely as it seems. It is layered, it is inherited, and it is negotiated. So, back to Rivers. What we are watching here is not a breakdown of government. No, it's a redefinition of it. Local governments are key battlegrounds. Party ideologies, that means nothing, actually. Relationships, loyalties, and structure, those are the real currency. So as 2027 quietly approaches, which is next year, alliances are forming, consultations are already happening, and positions are being considered. This is normal politics. The difference in Godfather systems is that conversations about the future are often, well, started and concluded long before votes are invited in. They happen in people's minds, riding high on ego, a sense of possession, and even greed. Well, the hope, as always, is that when the time comes, institutions, INEC, will speak louder than individuals, and democracy will, well, still have a final word. And this is where you come in, every single last one of you. You see, Godfather politics survives only when citizens feel distant from power, when people think politics happens only in Abuja or in Port Harcourt, in secret meetings where they aren't invited to. But the real battlefield is actually much closer. It's grassroots. Democracy doesn't vanish suddenly. It fades quietly when citizens step back and only complain from a distance. So as Rivers continues to realign and reposition ahead of 2027, the most important political actor is not in Government House or in Abuja. It is the voter who decides to show up. It is you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, on that note, let's welcome you to Breakfast Extra. My name is Mazino Appeal, and who do we have today? None other than Queen Celestine. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Happy New Year, Mazino.
Happy New Year to you too, and grand to have you here on the second weekend for
Thank
2026.
you.
How has your 2026 been so far?
Well, so far it's been great. Of course, we did the broadcast for New Year at New Central, and you know, it's been amazing.
Grand.
I'm getting to love my colleagues here.
Fantastic. Do you have any resolutions you've broken yet?
There's no resolution. We just continue. What's about? We just continue.
The Nigerian resolution is to survive and continue. I do agree with you. Tell you what, let's get the conversations rolling, and we'll see our way through some very interesting conversations. Sure. Welcome once again to Breakfast Extra.
Welcome. Good morning. Good morning, Nigeria, and welcome again to Breakfast Extra. I guess to say Happy New Year. Now, this morning we begin in the courts where the bail of a former Attorney General and his family in a major money laundering case raises fresh questions about justice, accountability, and public trust. Then we move to Edo State, where doctors have taken to the street protesting the killings and abductions of their colleagues and asking a painful national question: how safe are those who save lives? And we turn, of course, next to Rivers State, where impeachment threats, party infighting, and opposition resistance are testing the limits of democracy and the rule of law. And looking ahead to 2027, we examine the growing realignments within opposition parties, the new alliances taking shape, and what all of this means for voters and the future of political competition. We will also step away from politics with Waka Waka World, taking a car walk through Lufasi Nature Park in Lagos and reflecting on conservation in the middle of a concrete city. And beyond our borders, we track the arrest of a former Venezuelan leader, the global backlash it has triggered, and the implications for Africa and international politics. All that and more right after the dailies here on Breakfast Extra.
Absolutely. Good morning once again, Queen.
Morning, Mazino.
Glad to have you here. A
Same.
very interesting conversation I and Queen had from just this morning about Venezuela and what the main cause is.
Yeah.
We've seen this shift from, oh, by the way, we're going to talk about River State, don't worry, but we'll save that for the belly of the show. But we've seen this change from accusations of narcotics, and now it's been, the main focus is on oil. And I don't know how, or how many Nigerians know how much this affects us here in Nigeria, because we are an we export crude as well. However, they will argue that it has nothing to do with the Nigerian kind of crude because it's a bit, is it too heavy or is it too light? I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
But there is a consequence, the fact that it will change oil prices and that will affect Nigeria. I've asked experts about this. I'm not getting the answer I want. Maybe I'm a bit too pessimistic, but I still believe that that's going to affect us gravely. And I'm hoping that it doesn't wound or, you know, keep us incapacitated, especially now that we have almighty Dangote in Nigeria. But just wanted to say that. Welcome once again.
Thank you.
Right, Yo. We are going to be going straight into our big report this morning. Let's take a very short break, and then we'll be back to bring you something very interesting, and you'll find out in a moment. Well, once again, you're welcome. It's still Breakfast Extra. My name is Mazino Appeal. So, a federal Capital Territory High Court has granted former Attorney-General Abubakar Malami, his wife and son bail to the tune of 500 million naira each in a money laundering case. Now, this is not just a legal formality. It raises the question that can Nigeria's justice system hold its own most powerful to account without fear or favor? Those are the questions. Now, to give us, kind of like on-the-ground insight into the proceedings and what the bail decision means, our correspondent followed developments in court. She spoke with lawyers, observers, and also bystanders to bring the human angle behind the headlines. Here is our special report by Joshua Imarayi, News Central correspondent.
The courtroom of Justice Emeka Nwite at the Federal High Court in Abuja was filled to capacity as former Minister of Justice and Attorney-General of the Federation Abubakar Malami, his son Abdulaziz Malami, and his wife Asapi Bashir returned to court for the hearing of their former bail applications. Supporters and associates of the first defendant, Malami, were also present in court. At the commencement of proceedings, counsel to the defendant and senior advocate of Nigeria, Paul Daudu, urged the court to grant his clients bail on self-recognizance and other liberal terms. Daudu argued that the offenses are not capital in nature, bailable, and that the defendants are presumed innocent until proven guilty by a court of competent jurisdiction.
The prosecution on their own part, rather than proceed with the matter, knowing fully well that they do not have any right of reply, insisted that they needed time and they needed an adjournment for them to respond to what we had found. But taking into consideration the nature of the application, which is an application which is strictly a discretionary one, and based on what we had already earlier filed before the court, we do our further affidavit and proceeded to take the application.
Counsel to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Ekele Iheanacho, opposed the bail applications, arguing that the defendant posed a flight risk. He further told the court that granting bail could lead to interference with witnesses or tampering with evidence.
After hearing argument from the defense and the prosecution counsel, Justice Emeka Nwite has adjourned to the 7th of January to rule on the bail application filed by the defendants. As a result, the former Minister of Justice and Attorney-General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, his wife and his son will remain in the custody of the Kuje Correctional Facility, pending when the ruling is delivered. In Abuja, for News Central, I am Joshua Imarayi.
Joshua Imarayi, who filed in that report, very stellar report, by the way. He'll be joining us in just about a bit, if I'm not mistaken. Joshua is with us already. Joshua, good morning to you. Grand. Good morning, Joshua. Joshua, tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go on a short break, fix your audio, and then when we get back, we'll start this conversation.
Welcome back, and this is still our first big report, and we have our correspondent Joshua Imarayi on standby to tell us about the atmosphere in court concerning the Malami case. Good morning, Joshua. Can you give us an update of what happened at the court?
Well, good morning to you, Queen, and good morning to you, Mazino. That particular day, the court was supposed to rule on the bail application filed by Malami, his wife, and his son, his wife, and his Asabe, his wife, Abdulaziz Malami, all in a trial and are currently accused by the FCC of conniving to launder to the tune of 8.7 billion naira. So that day was supposed to be the ruling of the bail application, and the court was absolutely calm, the type of calm that you experience before a major ruling or major decision is made. That type of calm was what you experienced in court that morning. Malami was in court, same as his son, his wife. But for supporters of Malami, what we witnessed is that the court was some sort of small justice. Emeka Nwite's court is 4 years, and it was the beginning of the year, yes, and the courthouse was not really full. But we noticed that some of the supporters of Malami were not granted entry into the courthouse. There was a point where the EFCC had to cordon them from the courthouse, and they had to walk miles away before they could access the courthouse itself. So that's the kind of calm that you see, and that is the kind of arrangement, the security protocol that the EFCC put in place before the ruling. But when it came to the ruling, the judge gave them bail to the tune of 500 million naira each. So for the three of them, we are seeing the summation of 1.5 billion naira, and that each of the defendant has to have a shorty, 2 shorty each, who has landed properties in areas like Warimpa, Asokoro, and Maitama, eyebrow areas, if I must say. And so, of course, you know that these individuals have perfected their bail and they are with their families as we speak. So that is what transpired in court. And of course, we saw that some supporters from social media across different lines, and some people who were not, were some sort of disgruntled at the ruling, they began voicing out opinions, several opinions. If you go through social media, mainstream media, several opinions on the bill give granted to Malami. Queen.
Joshua, the court had granted bail, like you said, of 500 million naira each, but there were other conditions as well. I'm wondering what these other conditions were. And then the EFCC had concerns. They had concerns that the suspects might tamper with witness or even jump bail. What response did the court give for the EFCC concerns?
So I'm going to start with the allegations that the EFCC made concerning the defendant, saying that they were going to tamper with witnesses or perhaps jump bail. One of the arguments that the defense counsel made was that these statements were blanketed statements that were not having particulars. When I mean particulars, evidence pointing, I believe the evidence before the court pointing that this is what they were going to do and this is how they were going to do it. This is who they are going in contact with. So the court stated that these claims were not enough to deny them bail. Because why? The primary concern of the judge is they are making themselves available for trial. And they fulfill all the other conditions to make themselves available to trial. Because before now, the EFCC had granted them administrative bail. And when granting administrative bail, you tender your travel documents, sometimes shorties too, and sometimes properties, others. But what the court is saying that the EFCC granted them bail. Yes, they did not abscond. And for a fact, their travel documents are with the EFCC. So it is quite unfounding to say that they were going to abscond. And for them tampering with evidence, mainly altering investigations and what have you, the court said that the EFCC did not bring forth particulars to the point that this is what is going to happen. Because, of course, you know that the court is a court of records, and court of records deal with facts. And what the court said that the EFCC did not prove beyond reasonable fact that these persons were going to do what they were going to do for the court to deny them bail, and the court refused the EFCC's objection and granted them bail.
While you're talking about evidence, did the court provide any evidence linking the former AGF or linking properties or transactions directly to the period while he was in office as AGF? Well,
for the trial itself, we've not gone to that phase where evidences will now be flying around like, of course, level backs. No, we've not gotten to that point. What we are seeing is bail applications and bail ruling. When a defendant is being arraigned before a court, what happens first is the person takes a plea and the person is remanded in custody. The next move is to move for bail application orally or formally. They moved orally and they were denied, and they also moved formally and they were granted now. But we are seeing that come 17 February, the case will commence in full motion. Of course, we'll be seeing them bringing forth evidence, witnesses, exhibit, and what have you. That is when we are going to see what the EFCC has to prove the allegations they have against the Malamis.
So, Joshua, I think Mazino will be wondering, like, Queen and her numbers. He's allegedly accused for 8.7 billion naira, and then the bail for the three of them is 1.5 billion naira. So it's a bit confusing as to how they got to that amount for bail. So aside that is one. Did you detect any tension or disagreement among the legal observers about this bail decision and the amount?
Well, there was no tension particularly for the bail amount. But one thing we understand is that the defense counsel told the court to grant the defendant bail in every legal term possible. And it is a sole responsibility of the court to ensure that the defendant gets that right to fair hearing. And one of the ways the court will ensure that the defendant has a right to fair hearing is by giving lenient bail conditions. The moment a court starts giving stringent bail conditions, the defendant might have it a little bit difficult to avail himself of trial or even not to jump bail. So once the court gives you some sort of leniency in that, it gives that the defendant the morale to stand in court for trial. And of course, you know that to prove a case is the prosecution's own sole responsibility. What you have against any defendant is the sole responsibility of whoever is prosecuting to prove it. So the court is going to give that sort of standing to the defendant, and maybe the responsibility of proving case would be given to the prosecution. So that is why that leniency came about. But in terms of reactions to the bail conditions, We weren't experiencing any in the courthouse, but what we saw was that reactions poured in across social media lines. That was what we confirmed, Quay.
You mentioned the reactions poured in, on social media and all that. Where can you tell us some of the reactions, from Nigerians?
One particular reaction that I'm seeing is that from the northern extraction, they seem to be sympathetic to the former AGF. They are saying that this is just another political victimization, saying that the former AGF dared to renege against this current administration, that he is one of the founders of the ADC, allegedly one of the founders of the ADC, and that because he has shown strong interest in being opposition in the past to the same APC he was once a member of. They are saying that this is just another attempt at political victimization. While some from the southern extraction, particularly the same APC members, are saying that let Malami come to court and maybe answer to the allegations laid against him by the EFCC. If the court finds him not guilty, it's fine. But if the court finds him guilty, then he has to pay the price and bear the consequences. So we are expecting that the court will do justice in his wisdom, maybe to convict or to discharge. Queen.
Right, that's a very interesting submission there, that last one regarding the conspiracy about being the founding member of the ADC. I never saw that one coming. However, that in mind, how do you think this changes public perception when it comes to the judiciary? Do you think, or law enforcement, or enforcement actually, do you think that people are much more confident in the institutions that we have now, seeing them go after individuals that might have embezzled or used public offices unscrupulously? Do you think that Nigerians are confident, or this raises confidence in Nigerians for the system?
In the past, Nigerians have been divided over the responsibility and the mandate of these agencies, particularly the anti-graft agency that those prosecuting the Department of Public Prosecution. Most people say for a fact that the procurement processes of getting their leadership is the main reason why those leadership are some sort of dysfunctional. Because of course, you know that the president is responsible for the appointment of these individuals. And Nigerians seems not to be comfortable with that fact, that the president is going to appoint the head of this agency, who in turn will answer to the office of the president. So there's this debate ongoing. But one thing we saw in this ongoing Malami case is the fact that after giving ruling, that day where the Justice Emeka Nwite of the Federal High Court delivered ruling, Justice Emeka Nwite came out shockingly to say, to give some remarks, and in his words, that he is unapproachable, that his leniency should not be taken for granted, that anyone who approaches him outside the court for any favors, for any arrangements that is relating with the courtroom, will be resisted and dealt with. That is the judge sounding the alarm and reading the riot act to both counsels, litigants, defendants, and like that. Nobody should approach him outside the court. Now he is maintaining the stance. Now, for a judge to come out and say something of such, you will understand that something has gone down beyond closed doors. Some permutations are certainly permuted that made the judge came out to say that nobody should approach him outside the court. So this is one of the concerns Nigerians are raising. And some Nigerians, particularly from several quarters, if I must mention them, Chief of the Council, is saying that if a judge should come out to say something of such, means that he is being approached, and that the judge should not hesitate to point fingers. Now the question is, will the judge, Reverend Honorable Justice Emeka Nwite, point fingers? That's another question for Nancy.
Very, very interesting question. I also have one more thing to talk about here. When it comes to these kinds of cases, we always never hold ourselves accountable as the people, as the citizens. So let me give you an example. Abacha loot. We're still talking about Abacha loot only since forever. In fact, only just last week, they're still talking about repatriating a very huge chunk of it. This is since Jonathan's time, actually. Now we're seeing another case where it's a case of misuse of office or embezzlement of funds. Are Nigerians ever concerned about all of these? Do we ever say, that our money that is being owed or that was taken or stolen, how are we going to get it back? What do Nigerians owe themselves when it comes to repatriation or recollection of funds that have been misused or stolen?
Well, one thing Nigerians should demand most times when they hear of this fund, it's not just hearing, they should demand accountability. Public figures, where are these monies going to? Explain. The government was elected by the same people. The government derives its power from the same people. And it is expected that Nigerians hold the same government accountable by demanding that transparency, accountability should be the order of the day. If such money is repatriated and is brought into the country, details should emerge. The government should not hold back details, because once you hold back details, public officials who might be tempted with a huge sum of money might want to divert some for personal purposes. Wow, because it's a huge sum. And most times corruption is giving the avenue to thrive when accountability measures are not put in place to ensure check and balances. So when people are not scrutinized, when those who have unfettered access to these resources are not scrutinized, and mechanisms are not put in place to ensure that corruption does not take place, we begin to experience this. Now, it is the sole responsibility of the court to convict the former AGF if he actually committed a crime. But we must understand that we should not give space for corruption to happen, because corruption will always fight back with the resources garnered from where it was allowed to thrive. Mazimo.
Well, thank you so much, Joshua Imarayi, for this report. And of course, the trial has been adjourned to February, so we can't wait to see what your report will be in February. We appreciate you joining us and giving us, the situation report. Thank you, Joshua.
Thank you, Joshua.
It's a pleasure.
Well, and that's it for our first big report. And let's go on a short break. When we return, the story continues. Stay tuned.
And you're welcome. We decided to bring you the dailies next for this morning, and of course we're going to be telling you what the front pages are saying, well, through a selection of Nigerian newspapers. So let's check out our very first one for this morning. Queen, what do we have for our first daily this morning, please?
Thank you, Masino. I think we'll be starting with This Day. And This Day, right on top, it says, with new MOU, Jersey to return over $9.5 million stolen funds to Nigeria. I can't wait to see how that goes. And Lagos named among world's top 7 art destinations for 2026. Wodo says poverty, unemployment, insecurity enough to oust APC in 2027. And Nigeria vows to strengthen fight against insecurity as Trump threatens more U.S. strike, and experts urge stronger collaboration to defeat terrorists. Right below, MOU for mass housing estate and agricultural settlement. And Wizkid becomes first African artist to surpass 10 billion streams on Spotify.
Well, that's interesting.
A bit of joy there.
Big news for Nigerian entertainment as we continue to conquer the world. Our very next daily for this morning is going to be, of course, the Daily Independence. Front page for the Daily Independence this morning, we've got this big right front and center. Experts raise the alarm as Lassa fever crisis deepens every single year. Court stops resident doctor strike, bars NARD from industrial action, and Nigerians react to surge in bandit attacks in Southwest. The writer there says remains of 5 forest guards killed in Oyo National Park recovered. After the flames, commuters questioned BRT operations, call for improved services. The BRT services have really been getting rather poor lately. Not a big customer, but I've heard plenty of stories. At the top of the Saturday Independent, unending police extortion, Nigerians narrates their daily ordeal, and blind widow entreats Okpolo to intervene in alleged injustice over contract issues, husband death. I think I've covered every single thing every single relevant thing for the Saturday Independence this morning about police extortion. I begin to wonder every single time I would drive through a police barricade if they don't see or know that everybody else from after that one vehicle they're extorting from can see them do this, could record it. We're in an age of mobile, guerrilla journalism, and it's a shame that they don't seem to understand this or note this. But let's hope it gets better. Not a chance.
Hope so. Now let's
What do
move
you
to
have?
the Guardian weekend. And right at top, spotlights on page 10 to 11 says Razak Akani Okoye, the industrial titan transforming lives via medical outreach at 86. And besides, it said countries America intervened to become more insecure. That is by Olurode. And of course, right at the center, why Nigeria First policy remains rich in packaging and lean in impact. You find that on page 8 to 9. And AFG, Nigeria unveil housing agriculture model to unlock rural capital jobs. And OT Hills, IGP's policy of posting officers to states of origin. And any compromise of INEC's values, procedures will attract consequences, Amopito tells staff and commissioners. And in the middle, New Horizons launches 500 million naira Amajiri Empowerment Scholarship Scheme. I can't wait to see the list. And CSOs condemn ongoing forced eviction of over 80,000 Makoko residents and demand a halt. And Wike portrait of an untouchable genius.
It's the cartoon there. I'm trying to, I'm always very interested in the cartoons. I'm trying to look at that cartoon there. What does it say? Nigeria First, poor finance support, poor policy framework. That's looking at the roads that Nigeria is being... And that's manufacturing. Yeah, that's how hard it is to actually be a manufacturer in Nigeria. So I absolutely understand. No reason to actually tie it in a bow. That's just what it is. Great depiction there, I like. Let's move on to the Saturday Vanguard now this morning, and a very big one here. Fubara impeachment. Wike maintains silence. Stakeholders pressure lawmakers to halt move. Fubara still abroad, lounging. Gets backing of party leaders, power brokers. PANDEF raises 7-man reconciliation committee. APC, NWC meet next week on issues. Now, Fubara is not without his own turmoils when it comes to this move, especially since after he has defected to the APC, because not everybody in the APC welcomes him. That's on one side. Then on the other side, the PDP is not going to be very happy with him for moving out. So I find him a man on his own, but making new friends. And the one big friend he has made, I'm not going to mention, seems to be, seems to be able to take care of every single thing. And then we see a situation where Wike seems to be lost in the meadows with dwindling friendships or alliance, but still a very powerful force to reckon with. You don't want to go against him. He's an intelligent man, by the way. He knows the political terrain more than any. In fact, if you ask me, I think he knows pretty much more than any other political figure that I know, or that I followed.
Like the front people say, he's untouchable genius.
He's actually quite an interesting fellow. I want to dive into his mind sometimes. At the top for the Saturday Vanguard, fears genuine elections won't. Hang on a second. Fears genuine elections won't hold in 2026, fueling defection to APC. Oh, now I get it. It's fears and genuine elections won't hold. Fears of genuine elections not holding in 2027 is fueling defection to the APC. I'll come back to that. The women who buy men unmasking sugar mummies. Oh, that's a movie I'd like to see. Nigeria versus Algeria when structure meets firepower. We wait to see 5 p.m. Going to be very interesting. Well, Afrima 2026, Burna Boy, Davido, DJ Maforisa battle for supremacies tomorrow in Lagos. There's so many headlines for the Vanguard, it's like they're trying to just give us the entire thing on the front page. 2026 budget, State House gets 43.19 billion naira. Tinubu Shatima aids to spend 12.2 billion naira on trips. And Dangote takes ex-petroleum regulator Ahmed to the EFCC. The ICPC was not enough, so he withdrew that, and in the same breath applied for the EFCC to investigate. So we thought this was gone. Apparently it's not. And this is the kind of thing that I like to see. Not that I'm taking sides, but I'm just saying in Nigeria, when we start things, we never see it to the end. And that's part of accountability. If you're going to raise an allegation, you too, finish it. Let's see exactly whether you are somebody to be trusted. Should we believe you the next time you come out and say so-and-so's happened? Or should we just think, he's only just doing that because he wants his way here? Because he has been accused of doing that when it was sugar. Now it's oil, so Yeah, let's not do this the second time. Follow through till the end so that your credibility is also...
It's 2026. Let's see if that will be added to our New Year resolution.
His New Year resolution.
Everybody.
Follow through.
Follow through.
I have none. I'm just going with the wind for 2026.
We should follow through and vote. There are so many things we need to follow through. Well, let's see what the Saturday Tribune says. And of course, right at the center, Trump promises more bombing if Christian killings in Nigeria continue. Says no normal law can regulate his use of U.S. military. You find it on page 3, right at the top. Insecurity, or your police to commence statewide arrest, seizure of unmarked vehicles and bikes. Why do we have unmarked vehicles and bikes in the first place? Influx of Sokoto bandits. Benue local government boss orders headmen out of council area. Where did you order them to? And right below Rivers crisis, Pandef moves to reconcile Wike and Fubara on page 4.
Again. Again. What
again.
happened the last time? What came out of that the last time?
See, there's always committee and small meetings and a committee of 6, a committee of 14. We never really know what they do again. They need to finish what they start.
So that's bringing back what I said from before. But it's reconciliation after reconciliation. What this does, it troubles the waters here, and then the ripple effects in other little, in quote, communities just serve to muddy the water.
God help us.
If you ask me.
Wow.
Let's just let rule of law take its place. Let the people decide instead of, you know, yeah.
And right below, Army Chief in Port Harcourt orders troops to protect national assets. I hope that includes the citizens in River State. And AFCON, Nigeria-Algeria rivalry in retrospect since 1973. And of course, Tambuwa 2027 polls must reflect will of voters.
All right. Our final paper for this morning is the Saturday Sun, Voice of the Nation. Economists, others warn Nigeria, poverty, job loss may rise. Not very encouraging as a very first thing that hits you when you see that front page. Experts warn that despite FG's reforms, small business is likely to struggle. Let's also add in the new tax law. Insist New Year may be harsh to workers, masses, but farmers likely to enjoy good harvest. That does it. I'm moving to the village. And at the top, court stops January 12 strike by resident doctors, and Pandef urges restraint in Rivers impeachment crisis. Also, FG approves reuse of textbooks in schools, and gloomy New Year for Omatu family. I wonder what this is about. I haven't read it yet, but it will make for interesting read for a Saturday. Corruption allegation, Dangote petitions the FCC against ex-NMDPRA boss. And let's see, OT can't stop my re-election in 2027, says Senator Kanu. Yeah, he's back, Kalu rather. Abia ex-governor meet in Umuahia endorses Tinubu for second term. And how I handle stubborn male fans by Ifoma Nebe. Who is that? Okay, that's it for the dailies this morning. Thank you very much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, it's still the very first hour. We've still got more coming your way, so we're going to ask that hang on a second, where's our faces? There we are. We're going to ask that you give us a little break here, and then when we get back, it's going to be another big story here for Breakfast Extra. We'll be right back.
Oh, thank you for being here with us. Now, medical doctors in Edo State have taken to the street protesting the abduction and killing of their colleagues. They are doctors, healers, and yet they say they no longer feel safe. The question is stuck. How do we protect those who protect us? Our correspondent was at the protest, speaking with doctors, union representatives, and citizens caught in this climate of fear. She brings those voices from the front lines of this human crisis. And here now is our special report by Mezi Bazweye, News Central correspondent.
What should have been a routine journey home has turned into a devastating ordeal for the family of 2 young doctors abducted in Edo State. On New Year's Day, gunmen struck along City Pride Road in Auchi, kidnapping 2 brothers, both medical professionals. One of them, Dr. Ibrahim Abu, was serving as a house officer at the Edo State Teaching Hospital, Auchi. His younger brother, Tahir Abu had recently graduated from Ambrose Ali University, Ekpoma, and was preparing to begin his medical career. Days after the abduction, tragedy again struck. Tahir's lifeless body was discovered near a riverbank, sending shockwaves through the medical community and raising fresh concerns over the safety of healthcare workers in Edo State. As news of the killing spread, grief spilled onto the streets of Benin City and Ekpoma, with residents and students expressing outrage over the worsening security situation. Members of the Nigerian Medical Association Edo State chapter also staged a peaceful protest, calling on government and security agencies to take decisive action. Carrying placards and chanting solidarity songs, the doctors described the attack as a direct assault on the medical profession.
We saw the Commissioner of Police today. We told him how we feel. And we have told them that in 72 hours, we want our colleagues released on hot, that they need to up their game, and kidnapping in this land has to end.
The security agencies should be seen to comb through the forest where these menaces are being perpetrated.
Doctors should not be exposed to this kind of harsh, extreme, unnecessary punishment, because irrespective of who you are, whether you are a witch, whether you are a thief, whether you are a clergy, the doctor will always take care of you.
It will be nothing that we let doctors here peacefully.
The Edo State Police Command says efforts are ongoing to rescue the surviving victim, Dr. Ibrahim Abu, and bring the perpetrators to justice.
Rest assured that action is in place to make sure that whoever that have been taken away is rescued.
While the state government and security agencies assure residents that investigations are in progress, many insist that stronger and more proactive security measures are urgently needed to prevent further loss of lives. In Edo, for News Central, Ameze Bazwai.
A very worrying situation there regarding the doctors who have been kidnapped and one who was found dead. It's a very sad story, and of course this has raised plenty of questions regarding transport security, regarding security of professionals itself, and what the underlying causes for these emergence or re-emergence of such crimes are. Queen, we were talking from before, and I always like to say that for everything that happens, there's always a cause.
Right.
Why are we seeing this happening more and more now? Many people would actually agree that this is simply a sign of the times that we're living in, where people are resorting to all means to make money. It's very sad that these are now targeted. These are no longer just simply by chance, one chance, anybody who gets in, hey. It seems to be targeted now, going after doctors, and the sad situation here where one of them was found dead in a that's just very poor and very sad. I don't know, what do you think?
Well, like you said, it's not, you know, when we talk about one chance, it just feels like it's anybody, but now it feels like you're going after people who are prominent. You're talking doctors, and then there were two women in Abuja, a nurse and a lawyer. And it's just, it's quite terrifying.
The Abuja instance is very specific to one chance operators.
Yes.
These guys have operated in Abuja for the longest time, but it's resurging now, and it's even more than before. And it also seems to be targeted in itself as well. You talked about the women.
Yes.
I think we also have a report which we will be showing in just a bit. But it makes you ask the question, especially when it comes to policing or at least transport security in a place like Abuja. Have you lived in Abuja?
I have. Transportation
is, I would say, one of the hardest things, apart from housing. Transportation is very difficult. Apart from the fact that it's expensive, you just don't have enough. So people resort to jumping in unmarked cars. And this is where the unscrupulous people take advantage. Any unmarked car, you jump in, and then you have these issues. But our News Central correspondents in Abuja, Bettina and Willie, actually put together another report regarding the insecurity surrounding transportation and one-chance instances in Abuja. Let's take a look at that report, and we'll be back to discuss that as well.
According to the Abuja Inquiry, a total of 104 kidnapping cases were reported in 2024. Armed robbery cases stood at 268, while one-chance robbery cases were recorded at 263 within the same period, highlighting the deadly nature of the crime.
We ourselves will have to be security conscious. Some ladies, they go see motor like old model motor or all this gura motor. Because of 300 naira transport from here to here, they no go enter. They look for flashing car, all these Prado Jeep, all these Mercedes, person go they stop and say carry them.
The government should intensify effort and sit up so that all security measures taken are implemented.
We are having the issue of kidnapping, the banditry, theft all around us here, and which is not something that is suiting to the citizens. So the government needs to take a proactive measure.
While the FCT Police Command says that discrete investigations are ongoing regarding the recent developments, security experts warn that criminals often exploit economic hardship and weak passenger verification to carry out these attacks, urging commuters to remain vigilant and avoid boarding suspicious vehicles.
There has to be a proper solution to this thing. It has been one too many issues. So many people have lost their lives. People come to Abuja feeling that Abuja is safe, but to me, Abuja is just like any other part of this country. But I feel the police at this time needs to come up with a unit or a task force solely dedicated to this. And I feel at the same time, we need to stop reacting to issues. This one that has happened within the last 72 hours, we are reacting to it because the media is carrying that report. Maybe before the end of this week, we'll move on to another issue, and that'll be the end of it. I feel this is an issue we need to constantly talk about.
Comments on social media regarding the recent deaths have citizens wondering about their safety. Residents are now calling on security agencies to intensify patrols, improve intelligence gathering, and ensure the arrest and prosecution of those behind the deadly operations. In Abuja, for News Central, Bettina Nwili.
There you have it, stellar reporting there by Bettina Nwili about the instances in Abuja regarding one-chance operations and how insecurity is once more something that people have to consider every single day. It's very sad, Queen. You walk out of the house, you say you're going to work. You also have to consider whether you're going to get there safe or even get back home safe as well. Nurses, doctors, ordinary people, carpenters.
Everybody.
This is the life. I don't want to just say like we heard from Edo State. It's not just in these Abuja, Edo. It's across. Even here in Lagos, we have such issues as well. The question now is whether the authorities are going to jump in and do something. Have they been trying from before? Yes. Have the instances changed or the stats changed? I wouldn't say much. I'd say there's more cases of these criminalities happening now, and I don't see much happening when it comes to the authorities.
Well, I honestly don't know. I feel like the lady said, this is something that we need to focus on. We can't just talk about it today and then we just move on. These are people's parents, sisters, cousins, brother, whatever, wives. Human beings, they're dying every day just because they're just trying to earn a living, trying to find their way home. And so it's very sad. I feel like we need to really focus on our security, find the places where, these things happen more often, put your people there, not the ones that are there for just standing sake, the ones that are actually there to save lives. And of course, they just need to find a way to, I don't think...
It's one thing to say just find a way, it's another thing to point exactly what you want them to do.
I think at this age and time, we should not be dealing with one.
Okay, but then the question is solution. Now how? What suggestions do we as the people have for them? The line between safety and tragedy is like this now.
Right.
You can fall into tragedy anytime. You're not assured of your safety. So the argument is now back out again for, let's hear it, state policing. Once again, it's 2026, and that's what we're still talking about. We've been talking about it for almost a decade now.
Right.
How that could help the situation where people are aware, or where officials or authority are very well entrenched into the system, that they know where to find who and how, who to talk to. They have local leaders as their alliance. And people know where to go to for security. That's one argument. How long will it take for this to be enacted? There are talks, there are suggestions that this is being looked into, and perhaps maybe in 2026 we'll see it come to fruition. But I'm not holding my breath. But then what other option or alternative do we have?
Well, we can also focus on infrastructure, let our road be smooth, think about the train system.
We just talked about the BRT this morning. You see them catching fires? That calls on maintenance. You talk about structure,
culture, right?
You talk about structure, then you now start talking about maintenance.
So everything has to go back to
you talk about maintenance, you talk about budgets.
So everything is foundation. If your foundation is not strong, every other thing you build.
What is that foundation? And this is my new mantra for 2026. What is the new foundation?
Good question.
The new foundation is you and I. And
Agreed.
If I ever do get into politics, this is going to be my mantra. And it's a fact. You and I are actually the biggest gear in this whole machinery here, because, like I say, everything starts from grassroots. If you want something, who do you ask? Who do you go to? How do you get accountability? It starts with you and I and our local governments.
Well, I'll tell you something.
And the systems around us.
I'll tell you something, real quick. And I like the fact you say is you and I was reading something yesterday about, I think, the student who were top 100 student from WAEC 2009. And, they did a research, and literally maybe 50 or 60% of them are no longer in Nigeria. These are Nigerians with so much IQ. But then you now see some leaders here telling you they can't find their certificate and they're giving you a fit of it. Again, those are the foundations that we're talking about, and not having management, proper management to control these things. There are so many things we're not supposed to be talking about in 2026.
Yeah. Well, it's very simple, people. I want you to make a selection who you want to hold accountable and entrust with everything that you need when it comes to amenities, when it comes to policies. If you can hold them accountable and say, this is what we're sending you over there to do, you know who to say, this is the person that didn't make our roads or didn't provide us security. But when you sit back and do absolutely nothing, these are the situations that we get. Whether we like it or not, we're all responsible one way or the other. Is it security? Is it budget? Is it whatever it is? You are also responsible. That's my new mantra for 2026. Make it a resolution if you want.
We're going to add it to that.
But tell you what. So those two reports form our days for the big reports that we have for this morning. We're going to be bringing you the news in just about a bit. So let's go on a very short break, and then we'll be right back.
Now, with the 2027 general elections on the horizon, Nigeria's political landscape is shifting. Opposition figures are repositioning, seeking alliances, and redefining loyalties. Peter Obi's move to the African Democratic Congress and his cooperation with leaders like Atiku Abubakar and Nasir El-Rufai shows an effort to build a coalition that can compete with the ruling party. At the same time, figures like former President Goodluck Jonathan remain aligned with the PDP, signaling efforts by older structures to stay relevant. On the other hand, the ruling APC continues to attract defectors from opposition ranks. So what does this realignment mean for party identity, ideology, and Nigeria's democratic options in 2027?
So to help us explore this, we're joined by Barrister Gozie Nwachukwu, Organizing Secretary, PDP, Imo State, 2023-24. You're welcome to Breakfast Extra. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Now, I would like us to begin by asking, and particularly one personality here. We've seen these cross carpets from APC, from PDP to APC and NPP, but there was one particularly last week that people had their eyes on, Barrister, and it was Peter Obi's move to the ADC. Now, many would say, strange bedfellows, why leave the LP and join ADC? Why not on a coalition basis, like other members of the ADC are still maintaining their party alliances while coming together for a coalition? So how do you see his move? What dynamics do you see playing out here for Peter Obi, the LP, and the ADC currently?
For having me. What has happened is that if you could take your mind back a little bit to the formation of the ADC, you could remember that Peter was part of the initial meetings and open gatherings which were held at the Yaradua Center when this ADC the new ADC was announced. So the movement of Peter to ADC was just a matter of time. There's nothing new about it. There's nothing new. It's only new to those who are not in the political system. For us who are political players and who are keen watchers of the political events, Labour Party was foreclosed for him because there were some interferences in Labour that made it impossible for him to continue his political interactions and ambition in Labour. So it was he was going to ADC or probably another platform, but Peter had been part of the ADC. And the only thing that shifts is that he has a movement called the Obedient Movement. The only dynamic that has shifted is that now the Obedient Movement will now support him in ADC. And that begins to give ADC more visibility, because ADC had been like a party that, a vehicle without wheels. I could call it a vehicle without wheels. It was just like static, it wasn't moving. But since Peter came in, you could notice a few of the obedience now with their energy, they come in. But there's a very pertinent question. And the pertinent question is, how long will these boards from the obedience last? Because the ADC, ab initio, was built specifically to serve the purposes of a particular political movement and a political leader. I fear, because if a presidential primary takes place in ADC, Peter will never win that primary. So I don't know what he intends to do. I don't know how his obedience will take it if tomorrow it turns out that Peter is not the candidate of the ADC for president for the presidential election in 2027. So it's a space that needs to be watched further. There are a lot of intrigues that are yet to play out.
It's very interesting that you should say that, but we will come to the conversation on who number one or number two will be when it comes to the ADC and this move. But let's take a look at this ideological adulteration when it comes to people crossing parties. If the ADC didn't have wheels until Peter Obi, you're saying that his LP movement, the Obedient, would actually shift with him to the ADC. But really, will they shift? We see a situation where politics in Nigeria has now become more personality than it is ideology. If he's moving over to the ADC or any other a governor or individual or politician for that matter, they're moving also with their own ideologies into these systems that did not want the same kind of ideology. So it's all adulterated. At the end of the day, you have such mixes that every single party these days seems to be, you know, the very next one. What about the case of the PDP? Everybody moving out of the PDP, what is left? I know you will have strong opinion on this one, but when it comes to opposition and the moves that we're seeing, the realignment, where does the PDP stand for 2027?
Well, unfortunately, the PDP, as it stands today, if things continue the way it is, the party is going to go into temporary extinction. Why I use the word temporary is because, legally speaking, the PDP cannot field candidates as at today for any elections. The law and the practice is that parties are run basically by the national executives of the party. That's what they call the National Working Committee. They see to the day-to-day running of political parties. And the law is that the National Working Committee also is in charge of the holding of party primaries where candidates emerge. As we speak, the People's Democratic Party has no legal National Working Committee anywhere on planet Earth. Because of the legal problem, partly because of the cases in court, and partly because of the misjudgment of what they were up against in 2027. The leaders didn't understand the game plan of the party in power. This is politics. In politics, they say it's like war, and in war, everything is fair. The party in power has utilized their incumbency to make sure that the PDP enters into some temporary extinction, which could become permanent if nothing is done with those cases they have everywhere in court, saying that conventions should not hold for one reason or the other. But as long as those conventions don't hold, you can't elect new officials. And as long as you don't have new officials at the national level, the party doesn't exist. Administratively, they cannot do anything. So as we speak, the PDP is not going to field any candidate except something changes. I'm sure you know.
So with 2027 just next door, are you saying that the rivalry will be between the APC and what other party if the PDP is unavailable? Who would the strong opposition be?
Yeah, today, as of today, there are only two political parties that can go into elections. One, the APC and the ADC, that can really go into national elections. The other smaller parties here and there, like ABGA, you know, Soludo uses it in Anambra, so ABGA can also go into elections, but it's quite a localized state in Anambra there. ABGA has no influence outside Anambra. And you may see pockets of parties because of the position of the PDP. There may be breakaways, like in Oyo State. Watch out for Oyo State, watch out for Bauchi State, watch out for Zamfara State, where you have governors of the PDP who may end up in new platforms. But today, there are two parties that are looking like they can really square up in a presidential election, if that's what you really mean. It is the APC and the ADC. But the ADC as constituted today is also standing on one leg. Because there are suits in the Federal High Court challenging the legality of the transfer of leadership in ADC from the Okemwosu leadership to the David Mark leadership. There are allegations in court that the constitution of the ADC was not followed in transfer of those powers and positions. And the law is that parties are bound by their own rules and their constitution, which is supposed to be their own ground norm. So also, Nigerians should watch that space. There are cases in courts which from APC, ADC, national executive, national officers and some zonal officers and state officers went to court. There's also one by the 2019 presidential candidate, I think, Dubebi Kachuku or so. Those cases are the Federal High Court in Abuja. If those cases go against the David Mark leadership, we have ADC will enter into administrative quagmire, just like PDP and Labour. So watch that space also. There are a lot of intrigues going on. If care is not taken the way this thing is going, the APC may be probably the only party that may be strong enough to even do a national election. That is the truth of the matter.
Wow. So, Barrister, you've mentioned so many things and you've touched on different parts. And, you know, the confusion here is the movement of different people, the defection. You know, after pledging, you know, alliance to a particular party and, you know, following their vision and mission and having to see that they're switching parties. Now, these movements, do you think they're more of a competitive, like a multi-party democracy, or it's a realignment around, you know, personal agenda rather than the idea of, you know, Nigeria and democracy as a whole?
Yeah, you know, the problem is that most people want to sort of characterize politics in terms of what is written in the books written by Plato, Montesquieu, Socrates, and the rest of them. Forget all that. The ideology, the chief ideology in politics is no permanent friend, no permanent enemy. What you have is permanent interest. Forget all the ideology. After all, Peter called some of the people in ADC today, he referred to them as something of criminality, the structure of criminality. in his 2023 election rounds. But today, Peter is seated with them, with the people he called criminals. He has joined them. So the question you ask is Peter now a criminal, or have they been absolved of their criminality according to him? So the issue is that there's nothing ideological. Basically ideological, maybe conservative, liberal, forget those things. The ideology on which Nigerian politics runs is no permanent friend, no permanent foe. What you have is a permanent interest. And what is their interest? To get power, to get into power, to administer power. So there's nothing ideological about it. It's all selfish interest. It's all personal interest. And this is the bane of the opposition. The bane of the opposition, why they are not able to do the needful that is required to give APC the run they deserve, is because the leadership of the so-called opposition, I use the word so-called with caution, because what they are doing is not really opposition. What they are doing is self-centered opposition. By the time they are ready to do opposition, they should go back to the playbook of the APC pre-2015 and look at how the leadership, most of them eschewed, gave away their personal ambitions and were able to do the right thing. But today, everybody wants to be the one to run the election. Everybody wants to be the one to be here and be there. Nobody wants to look at the issues of who can really win this election. We're in opposition. Where can we get votes, like organic votes, since we're not in government? So for me, the interest is just to grab power, to get into power. There's nothing ideological, in this real sense of ideology, about Nigerian politics or all these movements you're seeing. It's all an attempt to get into government and begin to administer power the way they want. That's it.
So it's funny that you should actually say what you just said. The series of things that you've just said was actually something I was leading up to with my next question. But if I hear you correctly, you just said that the APC had the right formula. The APC put a structure in place to help it unseat any sitting power at the moment. But now it's gone rogue, if I get you correctly. Now, the ADC has that potential as well. And that's where my next question is coming from now. Are we seeing Nigeria shift to a situation where coalition politics becomes the rule of the day, like what we have in other developed countries, in America, for instance? People come together, still hold their party ideals, but they come together, and even after that, they still remain. But in Nigeria, and with the ADC now, even if they do have such a good structure, after 2027, do you see the ADC still holding true to what it started out being, different individuals who want to come together for the good of Nigeria, or do you see it disbanding because of the different ideologies that have come into the mix?
Well, first of all, the ADC as constituted today is a coming together, a fusion of what I could call interest individuals and groups who want to get into power. If for any reason the ADC does not oust Tinubu from power, or does not oust the ADC from power, I foresee that after post-2027, new political alignments are going to emerge. You know, in the APC today, things are looking a bit calm because there's an incumbent who wants to run for a second term. Usually when it's that way, and there are no internal insurrections, like we don't have any major insurrections internally in the APC today, publicly, like we had in the PDP pre-2015. Usually it looks like everybody is together. But once that season passes, and even if the incumbent wins, there will begin a bitter power struggle to replace him will begin. And in the ADC, normally when you lose elections, bad blood begins to run. So many inquisitions start coming up. So many questions are asked. And in the process, some people may feel that they were shortchanged, or certain persons shouldn't have taken certain positions. So I foresee another realignment of forces that will properly become an opposition for 2031. That is when probably a bigger, stronger opposition platform may emerge from those who will feel that in the post-Tinubu era, they're not likely to be favored. And those who believe that, oh, we need this thing now, we've lost it in 2027, and they want to correct certain things they think didn't go well. That was part of the idea behind the success of the APC in 2015. So I see the ADC dissipate. I see it's nothing holds them ideologically. What holds them is that they want to remove Tinubu from power. The moment they're not able to remove Tinubu from power, that adventure just ends there. And most of them will move away and begin to look for other means to further their political interests. That's how I see it.
Well, so, Barrister, I think the next question now will be, what arrangement does ADC have to, come up with? You already mentioned that it feels like ADC is on, standing on one leg. And, who is now going to be the leadership? Is it going to be Peter Obi or is it going to be somebody else? What's your take on that?
Well, the truth of the matter is that if there is a primary contest in the ADC today, the way I've been an organizing secretary of the party, as organizing secretary of the party, the organizing secretary of the party is in charge, is the person who implements decisions of the party hierarchy in terms of the holding of congresses and primaries. So with my little experience of the way primaries, political primaries and congresses are held, if the ADC holds a primary election for the presidential ticket for 2027, holds today or tomorrow, or even next tomorrow, Atiku Abubakar will pick the tickets. That is the truth of the matter. Because his political machinery controls most of the state party apparatus of the ADC. And that is where the delegates of the primaries are going to be selected from. The national delegates are selected from in the PDP, it used to be one per local government. So you have 774 of them plus the statutory national delegates. So anybody who controls a large chunk of the structure of the party, at the party levels, will emerge victorious. The P2B's movement, which is the obedient movement, they have just come into the party. There is already a structure in place in the ADC. Unless the ADC enters into congresses where they dismantle what is there now and opens up the space at the state level and at the local government level to now bring in P2B's people and other interests. But if the ADC remains the way it is constituted at the state level, as at today, Atiku Abubakar is already the candidate of the party, except a consensus arrangement where the leaders come together and decide that maybe let's give it to some other person. But if there's a primary, which is the conventional thing to do, Atiku has an advantage over Peter.
Barrister Nwachukwu, I want to say thank you very much. You've actually opened our eyes to some very interesting new intakes here when it comes to the situation with the ADC especially, and the cross-carpeting that's been happening and realignments across parties. It's obvious to see that when it comes to 2027, it's not just about the ballots or the numbers, it's also about why people are moving to these different parties and what the voters or electorate have to do. They have to identify themselves and know exactly why they're voting for these different candidates. Barrister Gozie Nwachukwu, once again, thank you very much. We wait to see what's going to happen, especially when it comes to the leadership of the APC, because that seems to be the one question everybody is waiting for before they make up their minds about the ADC as well.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you indeed. Now, let's take a quick break and we'll be back with more conversation here inside of Breakfast Extra. Do stay tuned. Another big story for Breakfast Extra. I'm hoping it's going to be an explosive conversation here. Edo State finds itself at a political crossroad as the impeachment process against Governor Siminalayi Fubara intensifies. Now, the People's Democratic Party in the state is bitterly divided, while the opposition party, the APC, has vowed to frustrate the process. The shutdown is not merely a local crisis. It reflects deeper fractures within parties and has implications for governance and also constitutional order in Nigeria. The clash began with accusations of maladministration and internal PDP disagreements. Fubara's relationship with party kingpins deteriorated into public conflict, prompting moves to remove him from office. Now, in response, the APC has pledged to impede the impeachment, framing it as politically motivated and an abuse of legislative power. The situation raises urgent questions about party discipline, the rule of law, and whether political strategy now overweighs institutional respect.
And of course, to unpack this with us, we're joined by Opunabo Inkotaria, civil rights advocate, and Liberos Oshoma, lawyer and political analyst. And of course, we have Comrade Ruben Izu Jr. Gentlemen, welcome to Breakfast Extra. And let's start by examining the roots of this power struggle. And, you know, I always tell myself, you know, this feels like a marriage issue. But I'm going to start with you, Mr. Inkotaria. Can you just tell us, in your view, what would you say are the characteristics that's underlying the causes of this impeachment effort against Governor Fubara?
Thank you very much. The recrudescence of what I refer to as political spasm is highly lamentable, very regrettable. But let me say that I'm not fazed at all by the bombastic effusion of befuddled legislators, which I dismiss as legislative halitosis. Let's take the issues under advisement. They are talking of remuneration for the legislative, what's it called again? Council or whatever it is that is those working in the legislative arm. Let us also not forget that Abbas was the sole administrator of the state for 6 months. And within the 6 months, everything that was due the legislators were paid. Cars were even released to them. That is number one. Number two, if you also talk of the, what is it called again, budget presentation. Abbas presented budgets to the president, who presented the budget to the National Assembly, and it was passed, which is now a law. That budget is in effect, and it is subsisting. The governor has up to June or July or thereabout to present a budget. That is another angle to be raised. And I think they're talking of re-election of the governor, that the governor signed and agreed that he wasn't going to be re-elected. I mean, that's about an eclipse of reason and poverty of logic. And I believe that that agreement was a nullity. Well, liberals is there. When you talk of a nullity in law, you're talking of void. But when you talk of a nullity in English, you're actually saying worthless and not important. You cannot deny a governor his constitutional right. Now, what is the basis of all these crises? It's simple. Even Nelson Wike himself had said that the victory of Governor Fubara in 2027 is tantamount to his political death. It will lead to his political nadir. That is his fear. So it's more or less egocentric. It really has nothing. It has no nexus with the performance of the governor. Preceding the declaration of a state of emergency, we saw the governor on a construction frenzy, working at a frenetic pace, commissioning projects. He paid salaries, increased salaries. He has also addressed the problems of Rivers persons in terms of scholarship and so many other things that are just too numerous to mention. Things that we never witnessed in the 8 years of his own wiki. His kids studied abroad. And I remember, then I was still a special advisor, when he said, when he canceled all the scholarship that his predecessor awarded, I'm talking about Rotimi Amechi, and even went on air to say that he could not fathom why anybody would send anybody abroad on scholarship to study law or any of the arts courses, because his kids studied law abroad. And most of those whose scholarships were cancelled, some committed suicide, some are frustrated. Just only few were able to be enrolled again in Nigerian universities and they probably would have completed their studies. And if you also talk, there are so many other things he raised. He talked of the sack of the chief of staff to the governor. Is that not the godfatherism? Is that not the pestilence of godfatherism? Even those that are going to work with him, you are going to dictate. He also said certain persons must not be seen with the governor. What kind of life is that? Is the governor incarcerated? The governor will have no free hand to do what he wants to do as a governor. And at the end of the 4 years or 8 years, as the case will be, you will find out that it is not just on Wike that people will blame or give credit to, but the governor himself. What of his legacy? They have forgotten all about that. And let me quickly say this, that the support the governor has is purely organic. I must tell you that even if Yeson Wike contests, it's on the ballot with the governor of Rivers State in 2027. As we speak right now, the governor, Siminalayi Fubara, will beat Yeson Wike. He will beat him at the polls because Rivers persons are extremely happy with what the governor is doing for Rivers State.
Sarah, please do remind me, were you once the spokesperson for Yeson Wike?
Yes, I was studying advisor on media and publicity, yeah.
I just wanted to point that out. Liberus, you were chuckling.
I read that. You know that. You know that. You know that.
Well, let's put that forward. Let's put that forward. Let's get concept here. Liberus, you were chuckling from before. Now, Liberus, I'm coming to you now. I heard you chuckling while Mr. Nkutaya was giving his submission there, but I wanted to ask you a specific question here regarding Rivers politics. We thought that when Fubara moves over to the APC, he'd be in good company. But it seems like it's no longer ideology, it's now a personality battle, where people are still very, very faithful to one particular person. So my question now is, how is this going to translate where he is, even within the APC, still finding himself having to fight with certain factions? What does this spell for his governance henceforth? And is the House within the legal threshold when it comes to the impeachment process they've put forward?
Yeah, that's a hydra-headed question, but I will attempt to start from the last one, then I move to let me start from the legal one, within the threshold of the House impeachment, because the Supreme Court had defined misconduct to be what the House of Assembly terms misconduct. But in defining misconduct, even though the Supreme Court had said, you know, what the House of Assembly would term misconduct, but also reasonability would also have to come into misconduct. You can't say, for example, because the governor refused to greet the speaker, and then it is misconduct. So that's, be that as it may, that's why the powers to impeach are not domiciled within one arm of government. It is clearly, you know, the other two arms of government, you know, constitutionally checkmating the powers of the executive. So if you look at the Section 188 that has been in debate, you know, since this started, clearly the chief judge of the state is also involved, and then, you know, an unbiased personnel also are involved in this process. So while the House of Assembly is clearly within the legal ambit to, you know, serve a notice to debate impeachment processes, then it is not solely rested within the doorstep of the House of Assembly or some other factors, you know, like the chief judge, even though the House of Assembly will spell out the terms of engagement of that panel, which will have about 3 months within which to file in a report. But clearly, they must be unbiased and will now be the one to perform a quasi-judicial function to investigate what is termed misconduct. And I want to also borrow a leaf from what my friend Ipunabo Nkutaya, you know, had said. And that's why I chuckled when he was saying that the budget passage, talking about budget passage and local government autonomy and the rest. Because initially, when the notice where it was debated and they're talking about extrajudicial, extra budgetary spending, I had thought that the initial budget passed had been exhausted and the government was just spending, the governor was spending money without appropriation. But when I listened to the spokesperson of the House of Assembly, I've forgotten his name right now, the young man, and I was a bit taken aback, because what he said was that the budget passed by the administrator, when the governor came back, they knew that they felt that that budget did not cover the plans and programs of the governor. So they had requested the governor to bring, you know, prepare and bring another budget for their passage. The question I would ask, not just as a lawyer, but as a reasonable man, is, do you determine what the governor's plans and program is? If a budget is in operation, would it not be proper for the governor to expend that budget with the plans and programs inherent in it? Are we also saying that that budget passed by the administrator, where allowances and salaries of lawmakers were paid, you know, backlog of those allowances were paid? Are we saying the budget did not capture plans and programs or in the River State? Is it out of place for the governor to implement that budget to a logical conclusion? So these are questions the House of Assembly didn't answer. And then talking about local government autonomy. Local government autonomy, we know by the judgment of the Supreme Court, the funds are supposed to be paid directly by the federal government. And if the federal government had not been paying the funds directly to the local government, whose responsibility should that be? Should that be that of the state governor? Should it be the governor's responsibility of ensuring that this fund comes directly? The local government, the president had issued directive that local government should go register with the open account with central bank in their jurisdiction. If the local government had not done that, it is their problem. And if they had done that and the federal government had not been remitting funds directly to them, it is not a challenge for the state governor. So because when I also, another thing is that, why I also chuckled was I heard the outburst of the speaker, that Fubara is the worst person to have happened to democracy, and they are calling their leader now, Nkutaria's former boss, Wike, who is helping Mr. President in Abuja. And I laugh and I ask myself, who should be blamed for being anti-democratic? Because Wike had boasted that he bought the forms for all of the members of House of Assembly, bought forms for the governor, bought forms for senators and the House of Rep. Nobody's asking, the taxman is not asking him, where are your tax returns? How much are your earnings to have been able to buy forms for everybody? Where did the money come from? Nobody, these are anti-democratic forces. And then the governor, the speaker clearly, you know, betrayed his emotions when he started talking about, no, this is not about our leader who is helping. And then you ask, if your leader is truly helping the president in Abuja, what has he been doing in River State, going around shouting, agreement is agreement? And like I said somewhere else, what our Gen Z called cho-cho-cho. When Ambode had problem with the current president, who was a former leader, we didn't hear him shout agreement is agreement from Agege to Victoria Island local government. Sorry, quickly, please. We didn't hear Mr. President then, as leader of APC, you know, go everywhere, shout agreement is agreement. He spoke on the day of primaries and he spoke loud. I'm not saying that a governor should renege on agreement signed. But if the agreement had to do, if it's a fundamental, because Nkutaria asked me this question, if the agreement is fundamental and touches on the core of his constitutional obligation as a citizen to contest or not to contest, that cannot be wished away by an agreement. It's a constitutional right. A constitutional right cannot be taken away by an agreement. And even if, certainly, it's something that can be managed and something that can be discussed and negotiated, it has nothing clearly to do with, you know, gross misconduct. And lastly on this, it is obvious that Nyesom Wike is scared, is panicking, and so that is why you see him, you know, running from pillar to post. And this third impeachment move is initiated against the governor. This clearly has nothing to do with the ordinary person in River State.
In a roundabout way and in a summary, you're saying that these concerns might be valid from the House. However, it seems that it's also a mechanism for destabilizing Fubara's government. Am I correct?
Yes, what I'm saying is, I looked at it, that's why I took my time to look at the concerns.
I just want
because they are hinging it on gross misconduct. Why it is their constitutional responsibility, why it is within their right to define gross misconduct.
Yes.
Also, it is within our right as analysts to also look at the issues one after the other, to say these issues that you're identifying as gross misconduct are clearly not gross misconduct.
Obviously, there's so much to talk about, so we're going to go on a break now. When we come back, we're also going to ask the comrade a few questions regarding this, but more on the details that you have just given. Let's go on a short break, gentlemen. We'll be right back. Do stay with us. And you're welcome back. We're still having our conversation regarding Rivers State and exactly everything that's happening inside of it, as we have heard from the past week, which is only just 1 week into 2026, and it seems to be taking the lion's share of conversations when it comes to political discourse. We still have our guests here with us. Comrade Ruben Izu Jr. is joining us, as well as Mr. Liberus Oshome and, of course, Opunabo Inkotaria. All three gentlemen are available. Comrade Ruben, you've heard the two first speakers, and I was wondering what you think. Now, Mr. Oshome actually touched on something very interesting, and before he did, I was going to come to you and ask you anything about history, if we have seen this kind of instance anywhere in Nigerian politics from before, and what the fallout was. Do you have any suggestions regarding historical relevance to what we see now in Rivers State? Comrade Ruben.
I want us to stick to the subject matter, and we should be issue-based on them. And if you talk about history, if you look at the scenarios across the federation, if you talk about history currently, what is happening in Rivers State about the impeachment process, I want to ask some of them who have spoken. Have they also gone through history to know what happened about impeachment in other states like Ekiti, other states like Plateau, other states like Bayelsa, and co, and what was the issue? What was the bone of contention in these other states? I don't think this is the first impeachment involved in politics. And besides, if I may ask them, for my friend is a lawyer, and then Opunabo Inkotaria has been in the business for a while. Is an impeachment a coup? Is an impeachment an illegal proceedings coming from the State Assembly or even the National Assembly? The answer is no. So I don't know why anyone will fume at such. You have the right to go to the security agencies to report if you have any issues against anyone that have violated your right or the Constitution. And it is in the place of the security agencies to investigate. I don't know why we are all jumping into the fray and saying things ordinarily we shouldn't even say. I'm even going as far as being personal. That's what, for me, I think is out of the subject matter which we are discussing. Now, for Rivers State as a state, we haven't had this to the extent it is going on currently. But a quick reminder, in the 2014, approaching the 2015 election, you remember there was also an impeachment plot that also went viral. And the then governor, talking about Right Honorable Rotimi Amechi, stormed as a governor, stormed the assembly complex. What was the bone of contention? We shouldn't forget so easily. Politics has to do with power struggle. And power struggle, they claim, they say no permanent friend, no permanent enemy. What is permanent in the class of politicians is what they call interest. And once this interest clashes, then you begin to see tussle obvious to the public. What you said earlier on concerning Ambode is about power tussle. It's about power tussle. What you do, even as a lawyer, he knows no two cases are the same. I may not approach my own case the way you want to approach yours. So you don't expect the same approach to different issues, or perhaps the same issues. So in history, there has been impeachment in the country. In history, there has been an attempt of impeachment in Rivers State. So for this one, for me, I believe, like I said earlier, I don't want us to talk personal. The State Assembly members have heard exactly what is their grounds with the governor, and they are voluminous in a public document before the state the governor. I expect ordinarily that that should be attended to. If they have alleged that the governor, for anything that anybody has said that is personal, like I said earlier on, I want to ask a simple question. Any Have you seen any content in that very document that refers to the FCT minister? Have you studied that document concretely and you observe that there is anything personal, emotional in that very document? Like he referred to the budget passed by the National Assembly for ABAS. Now the State Assembly, in a norm, they are to check and balance each other. Now the State Assembly have seen the emergence, the coming back of the governor with what the State Assembly, National Assembly has passed for the previous administrator will not encompass what the governor wants to do. And let me tell you, we are only speaking as analysts. Some of us are not in tune with what is happening. The State Assembly may have looked inward and discovered that the governor, how did they get the fact? That's what some persons do not want to ask. How do they have the fact that the governor has outspent what was provided in that very budget and thereby requesting for a supplementary budget? These are questions we need to ask. And the only person that could answer this question that has been asked by the Assembly is the governor. Why don't we allow him? It's a normal legal process. In the Constitution, they are doing their jobs, calling and checking the governor. Let the governor answer to the questions. And like the Speaker said, let me not, I'm not speaking for the Speaker, but like the Speaker said, let there be nothing but investigation. After the investigation, if the allegations are not founded, then let the legislative business and the executive business commence as usual. There is no crime in what the Assembly members have done. We found out that the governor have done XYZ, and you also forgot, they also alleged to the fact that commissioners that are ought to be screened by the State Assembly have now been passed as essays to the governor, and they are doing the functions that are ought to be done by those who are supposed to go through the screening of the State Assembly. But at the end of the day, it is permanent secretaries of the various parastatals that are signing. They made so weighty allegations. Why are we not allowing them to do their jobs? Where is the FCT minister in part of the allegations that have been leveled against the governor? We should be up and doing in all these whole things. Let us be issue-based, objective.
Okay. Comrade, thank you so much. I can see the passion in which you responded to Mazino's question, and I think I just want to ask Mr. Inkotaria. I think for me, the details of this situation is so broad and is so deep. And
I mean, because very soon you told me there's no time. So that certain issues can be addressed. Yeah.
Oh,
Number one, when you talk of appointments, when you talk of appointment of appointees, when you talk of the appointees, the governor only appointed special advisors. And the special advisors appointed, you have the number of special advisors to be ratified by the State House Assembly. He did not exceed that number. You don't go back. If the Assembly approves 10, 15, 20 special advisors, it is within the governor's virus to ensure that he doesn't exceed the 10, 15, or 20 special advisors. But the House of Assembly will not tell him the number of the person to be appointed as special advisor, and he does not also need to go back to the House of Assembly when the special advisor is appointed. Then number two, you have two. The Constitution says there are two persons that must be appointed. You're talking of the Secretary to the State Government, you're also talking of the Attorney General of the State or Attorney General of the Federation. The issue of the Attorney General, what the governor did was a minor cabinet reshuffle, which is also within the rights of the governor. He moved the Commissioner for Sports to Minister of Justice. He doesn't need the clearance of the House of Assembly to do that in terms of minor cabinet reshuffle. That is the second one. Then he also raised the issue of I've forgotten again, if you could remind me. I want to address just because you said we should just be on point. I want to address those issues you raised. If you can jog my memory a little, I'm a little bit under the weather. If you jog my memory a little, yes, I'll address those issues, please. And there are about two or three other issues I would have liked to address.
He also talked about the governor having his day to be able to tell or to defend as well, if I'm correct, Mr. Rubin.
No, that's right when it comes to that. I'm not bothered about that. Okay. I'm talking of the other. There are about three salient points that I need to address. If you can remember, please, quickly.
I can't at this moment, but why don't you continue? Maybe if it comes up, I will remind you.
Okay,
so while you're remembering that, I also saw Mr. Liberus actually shift in his chair while Comrade Ruben was speaking. Okay, Mr. Liberus,
let him go ahead.
Why don't you go ahead for now? Yes.
Now, what I said is this. I initially said, I want us to be issue-based and upon show.
No, I said, I understood that.
Just a second.
Okay, let us go back to the impeachment.
Sorry,
what the assembly members
Just a second. Ambode's case was not a matter of impeachment. Ambode was, his re-election was truncated by the president, Bola Tinubu, before he became president, not necessarily by President Bola. But he actually still that effort because of the same pestilence of godfatherism I talk about. Then again, it is within the right of the House of Assembly or National Assembly to impeach and also remove if the grounds of impeachment are valid. Nevertheless, that right is supposed to be exercised prudently. Now, you talked of Alamesa, Bayelsa, you talked of Daria and Co. In the case of Alamesa, you have just 5 persons impeaching and removing Alamesa. Is that constitutional? In the case of Daria, the same thing. So are we going to continue in error? That is the point I'm making. And don't forget that as citizens, it is within our right also to analyze issues because these issues affect us as citizens. So you cannot say we should not talk on these important issues, then let us leave it to the governor to address. No, that is not done. You sit down here and condemn the president or applaud the president for tax reforms and what have you. So the same right we have to also speak on issues. Our views on this issue will not definitely affect the outcome. But this is how we think. And it is the citizens' right to also think so. So that it is wrong in other states that when they did
we're trying to manage time. We're trying to manage time, sir. If you don't mind, I would like Mr. Liberos to actually give his submission now, because I've been seeing you staring since.
Yes, I want to. I without trying to be personal, I quite. I feel the comrade while trying to defend the indefensible said we shouldn't discuss personality. I didn't bring personality into the discussion. It was the speaker who brought personality into the discussion. As an analyst, I will be doing my constituency a disservice by not addressing such statement when he said it has nothing to do with their leader who is helping Mr. President in Abuja. That's his statement, not mine. Secondly, also, I would also be doing the public who are relying on me to help them break down these issues a disservice by not looking at the items itemized by the State House of Assembly, which I've also looked at, and I said it is within their right to define what gross misconduct is, but also it is within the right of the public to look at what gross misconduct should be. Also, it is not me who also went around local government by local government shouting agreement is agreement. You can't also begin to talk about why you agree that every political move should be different from the other. But here you are saying that I shouldn't talk about the move being adopted by Nyesom Wike. And then when we talk about impeachment, legally speaking, let me explain this. All of those impeachment that you refer to, before now, it was the intention or the belief of the State House of Assembly that by virtue of subsection 10, the jurisdiction of the court had been ousted. And so once that process is concluded, that the court cannot question it. But in the case of Ladoja, if you remember, also followed by the case of Peter Obi, which stalled the gale of impeachment we were saying, the kangaroo process of impeachment, the Court of Appeal and then also allowed by the Supreme Court heard that you must comply strictly with the provisions of subsection 1 to 9 of section 188 before you begin to invoke subsection 10. And even invoking subsection 10, the court will have to first assume jurisdiction to see if you have complied with the laid down procedures. So it is not enough to say once a House of Assembly initiate impeachment proceedings, then we shouldn't look at it and we shouldn't talk about it. Even when the House of Assembly is trying to pull a wool over our eyes and we shouldn't look at the issues. Certainly, these are issues within the public domain. If it is something we shouldn't be discussing, then certainly, then the House of Assembly would not even be in existence. Also, you talk about the budget, the issue of budget. While it is within his right as a comrade to talk about what the House of Assembly might have noticed, The House of Assembly did not, in all honesty, after listening to them, say that they noticed that the budget had been expended. No, that's not their statement. Let us not put statements that are not in the public domain out there. What they said, if you listen to the spokesperson of the House of Assembly, he said they felt that that budget did not cover, or probably didn't cover, some areas, some plans and programs of the governor. Plans and programs of the governor. So you now begin to ask yourself, is it in the place of the House of Assembly to ask, to know what the plans and programs of the governor is, or is the governor not lettered enough to know what his plans and programs is? So these are the issues. An attempt to take us away from discussing the issues. My friend and brother, comrade Ruben, is saying we should discuss issues. What we are clearly discussing are the issues. That's why I have itemized. And I also have said, I do not support somebody breaching an agreement that you have reached. I would not sit down here and support Fubara to say, breach an agreement you have reached with your godfather. I am one person who likes loyalty. Wike had assisted you to become a governor. Out of all the people in Rivers State, it is the same way that others have become governor that he became a governor. But if that agreement is hinging on his constitutional right whether to contest or not to contest, allow the party members take that decision during the primaries. It is not within Wike's right as a person to say, because you have breached an agreement, then I am the Lord of the Manor, I'm the Emperor, I am the Lion, I'm the Conqueror, and I must decide what happens. That is not party democracy as practiced in Nigeria and world over. That's why I refer to the case of Ambode and Tinubu. Tinubu, we also saw, he was the leader of the party at that time. He decided, even when we knew that the decision was his, but you saw during the primaries, he said that I am a leader, but I have followers with me. But in this case, it is Wike that is the leader, he is the follower, he's everything. And so when you hear him talk, all the followers simply do is to koto and re-echo what he has said. There is no, if Wike had not started that discussion and those visits and mounting the podium, I will not support Fubara, I will not do this, agreement is agreement, and then the House of Assembly had come with this, nobody would have been discussing Wike. So my message to Ruben, to pass to him, is that he should learn to be circumspect and he should learn to be reticent in some cases, even though I will not advise him how to play his own politics.
Right.
So you cannot tell me not to discuss Wike when the speaker brought Wike into the fold.
Yes. Comrade Ruben, I see that you want to respond, but before you respond, Mr. Oshoma, I just wanted to ask that, can the court intervene without being accused of judicial overreach in this situation?
The court cannot intervene at this stage because that would be judicial overreaching. This is clearly an act of the legislature. It is clearly an act of a State House of Assembly. Until that act is concluded, there is nowhere in Section 180 that empowers, or in Section 6 of the Constitution that empowers the court to intervene at this stage, because that would be overreaching the powers of the legislature. The court will wait for the legislature to do its business and then invoke subsection 10 to look at what had been done. At this stage, there's nothing that can be done. Whether Fubara responds or not, in the next 14 days, the House of Assembly is going to take a debate whether the matter should be investigated or not. And once that debate scales through by 2/3 majority, then the Speaker will write to the State Chief Judge to constitute a panel of 7 of unbiased persons with integrity, who are not partisan, who are not civil servants, to investigate this allegation. And that's why I said that it is not clearly within the domain of the House of Assembly to determine alone what gross misconduct is. The public, look, let me tell you also, there are 2 courts, the court of law and the court of public opinion. There is no way today you can take away the decisions and the mindset of the court of public opinion, even though we wait for the court of law. So we're in the court of public opinion, and decision, certainly to a very large extent in the court of public opinion, also have a way of influencing, political decisions and ideology.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Liberous Oshoma. That was quite a mouthful. Comrade Ruben, let me come to you and ask you now, if everything that Mr. Liberous Oshoma has actually stated here is something to go by you, I'm wondering where we separate violations, and I mean constitutional violations like the sorts that are being brought against Fubara, from personality loyalty when it comes to allegiances or alliances with political figures. Where and how do we separate these two? And you can also choose to respond to Mr. Oshama.
You're just asking me. Barrister, you are just being economical with the truth. In as much as you have made your point, you know you can't school me concerning the points I have made because they are very much there. You are not just in tune with what is in the public domain. The document is there, and we all have gone through the document. I am not speaking from my own personal view. That's why I said, let's leave it. You said it clearly. It is clearly a constitutional issue, and the State Assembly has its right to go through that. That's why I said, from what they have outlined, alleging that the governor has misappropriated funds in the way they have outlined it in several ways. I ask a simple question. Is there any content in that document that mentioned the name of the FCT minister or loyalty or disagreement in any which way? They outline things that you and I, we are not in the State Assembly. We are not in the realms of the State Assembly state. And those who actually checkmate the governor, those who actually are to check and balance things as constitutionally required, have come out to tell you. It's just like when the security agency said, you have a case to answer in the police. Are you the one to determine to the police what should make you go to the police station to respond to them or not? Go there and find out whatever they have alleged against you. And if it is not weighty, you have yourself to be bailed or contact your lawyer. It's as simple as anything. But be that as it may, I want to respond to what you said earlier on. There is no sentiment. You know, and ignorance is a lawyer. Ignorance to the law is not an excuse. Now, a lot of persons have looked at the public appearance of the minister and his statement. This is pure politics. He has made mention of 2026 will be a politics year, a year of politicking. And he chose to do politics the way he has to do it, and is within his right. I don't think he's campaigning as against the guideline of INEC. He is not campaigning. He is on the thank you tour. And that is not in any way has to do with what the Assembly has done. I listened clearly when the spokesperson to the State Assembly was being interviewed on channels. And clearly he said it without number.
Now, Comrade Ruben, my apologies, but we have to manage time here, and I really want to know what Mr. Nkataria has to say here. He was the former spokesperson for the FCT minister, and I'm wondering whether in this case, the case of the impeachment, if he sees an influence by the FCT minister, maybe he can put that to rest for us since he's worked with him. Mr. Nkataria, what do you think?
It is irrefragable that the FCT minister is the one orchestrating all this. The man has said it, that the re-election of Fubara is tantamount to his political debt. It will lead to his political nadir. And therefore, Fubara must not return. He has said it. The Speaker of the House, who made reference to Nyesom Wike, had no business making reference to Nyesom Wike if Nyesom Wike was not the one influencing them. Why try to divorce Nyesom Wike from the crisis that is going on in the state? It's simply because the world knows that Nyesom Wike is the one, is the brain, the bulwark, the one behind all what is going on in Rivers State, simply because of the problem in Yazi, Fubara. And actually, what is that problem? Do not appoint this. Whatever you have to do, let me know. I am supposed to be in charge. I mean, we all are aware of this. Don't, okay, let us even forget all that. This might be repudiated in public. The issue of re-election. You say agreement is agreement. We agree. At what point did you agree to start it? Because when you said you helped him to emerge as the governor of Rivers State, at that point you did not agree. You only agreed after you had issues and the president intervened. So are you going to shift the goalpost midway? Are you also, you say because, okay, I'll ask a simple question. Because you helped to finance my wedding, are you going to sleep with my wife? Or even if I agree with you that if you give me X amount, you will allow you to sleep with my wife. If you finance my wedding, then after that, you're going to come back to say we had an agreement that after financing your wedding, I'm going to sleep with your wife. I mean, some of an eclipse of reason and poverty of logic. It is so fatuous for anybody to think that way. This is the man's constitutional right. If you're not happy with him, I don't have a problem with that. Go and work against his re-election. That's all you need to do. And this one is saying, no, rather than trying to work against his re-election, you're trying to truncate and tell him not to contest at all. Because you know that Rivers persons will come out and mass to vote for Siminalayi Fubara should he be on the ballot come 2026 or 2027. That is, I say 2026 if the National Assembly amends the Electoral Act, or 2027 if it remains the way it is. Governor Siminalayi Fubara will definitely pick anybody at the post because he supported the candidate and people love this man. In the last 8 years, this man said they built, excuse me, he said they built how many flyovers, how many bridges? What of human capital development? Zero. And you ask a simple question, why are you building flyovers and why are you bringing bridges? Because of the pecuniary gains.
All right, Mr. Nkotaya, to something that you have just said, you've mentioned the word agreement, and this seems to be rearing its head every single place. This agreement between the president, Wike, and also Fubara.
So the man has said, I'm not going to contest again. Just I tell you,
I'm wondering, Mr. Nkotaya, I wanted to know from Mr. Liberos what legal basis this agreement has when it comes to the dynamics of the impeachment. Mr. Liberos Oshama.
An impression that made by Comrade Ruben. It is not in every case that the police says you have question to answer that the police allegation is valid. That is why, as a lawyer, as a human rights lawyer and as a constitutional lawyer, most times when the police sends a visitation, what they do now, they will say they are inviting you for questioning because they know in some cases when they put the reasons there, lawyers are going to analyze whether these reasons fall within a civil or criminal matter. Because if the police dabbles into a civil matter, then it clearly does not mean that you must go to police or that once the police invites you, that means, yes, it is within their right. So in the same vein, if you permit me to use that word, when the House of Assembly invites you or levy allegation, like we have seen in other cases, the Deputy Governor of Edo State, didn't the Supreme Court nullify that impeachment process? The Deputy Governor of Kogi State, didn't the court nullify the process? So does it mean that once allegations have been levied, and then we should not even be looking at it? And so those allegations, you say, I am not an insider. How do you know I'm not an insider? Then secondly, also on the issue of this agreement is agreement. The question is, that Nkotaya asked just now is valid. We all stand on agreement is agreement. If at the point of assisting this man, you had said, you are going to do only one term, and you people sign it, they all have the agreement, they are politicians, they know how to do the agreement. You all sign it and say agreement is agreement, you will not go for a second term, and then you bring out that document when all of these issues come. I will be the first person to tell Fubara that, look, you know what? You agreed to this ab initio. You cannot renege. This man, you can't betray him. This was what you agreed to. He assisted you. But there were issues. The man became governor, and then there was a disagreement. You now say, no, he must go. By control, I bought forms for everybody. He must go, and I will not support his second term. It is within Wike's right whether to support anybody or not to support. So Mr. President brokered the peace. The first one, you know, didn't fall through, and there was an interregnum, state of emergency declared, and then from what we heard, there was another one. So if this agreement, how many agreements has Wike in himself? How many agreements has he complied with? Who didn't we? There's no way I can discuss this matter without bringing Wike, unfortunately, because he started it. There is nobody that Wike has brought to the fore that he didn't quarrel with. If I consistently quarrel with everybody, if you get to a point, people will begin to ask, is the problem truly with these people or with this singular man? That's where the issue is here. So this agreement, what is the content of this agreement to know whether it can pass through the threshold of a legal agreement, or is it an illegal agreement? Because an illegal agreement cannot be binding. If we have an agreement to go and steal now, can I begin to say agreement is agreement and that it must be enforced? There are some agreements that cannot be enforced in law. So that is why they say agreement is agreement. Ordinarily, nobody is saying it. So it is not every agreement you say, yes, it must be binding in law. And then lastly, so that I yield the floor for Ruben again.
30 seconds, please.
The issue, quite quickly, while it is within the constitutional right of the House of Assembly to levy allegation, it is within my constitutional right to look at this allegation. I talked about the local government autonomy. I talked about the issue of budgeting. And then also it is within my constitutional right to look at who is beating the drum behind the scene. You can't tell me not to mention that because in that document, Wike's name is not mentioned. But in passing the document, Wike's name is mentioned. And Mazino, anytime you see there is no thoroughfare here, that means there is a thoroughfare. That's what the speaker was clearly trying to do.
Mr. Liberos Oshoma, Mr. Nkutaria, Comrade Ruben, I want to say thank you very much for your insight, your experience, and your legal mind in having this conversation today. It's been fiery, and I don't think that it ends here. I think there's still much to look at, especially as the impeachment process takes on this week. Let's see where it goes. And we'll continue to follow, and we hope that if we call all three of you together again over on this show to have this conversation, that you will welcome our invitation. But for now, thank you very much for such interesting insight into the conversation.
I hope to see my brothers again.
Yes,
my pleasure always.
Yes, indeed.
At your service nationwide.
Yes. Comrade Ruben, thank you very much too. Thank you, gentlemen. Wow.
All right, then.
That was interesting and fiery now, wasn't it?
This situation is like an onion.
Yeah, the layers just keep coming off.
And you choose to cry or you hold it and make something out of it. It's exhausting. You could tell that I'm like, you know what, I'm not having this conversation. I'm going to let Mazino do the talking because, again, the situation, you can see it. But it's like they're putting different layers of different things. You can see what the issue is, but you're not just understanding why it's an issue.
Because of all the legalities all around it and the processes and all. But
bad marriage.
Bad marriage, she says. Tell you what, let's go on a break because we need that break. And we'll be back for our final sessions here for Breakfast Extra.
Don't go anywhere. Goes up next on Waka Waka World. We take a walk through Lufasi Nature Park in Lagos. Here is a place where city noise gives way to bird song, where mangroves and green trails remind us of the fragile beauty of our environment. Today, the Waka Waka Doctor explores conservation, biodiversity, and why spaces like this matter for our health and future. Tune in as we step away from concrete and into calm together in this package.
Let's take a moment to explore another gem in the city of Lagos. It is called Lufasi Park. It was started about a decade ago in 2014 with the idea to preserve the natural habitat within urbanized Lagos.
So we have antelope in there.
Antelope, okay.
Civet cat.
Civet cat.
Yes, and then we have a tortoise. We call her Mama T.
Mama T. We give her the Mama tortoise. We want to see if we can see some fishes, and I'm going to feed them with this. Go! There are so many places in Nigeria that people don't even talk about. And today, this is one of those places. I'm visiting this place, this wonderful expanse of land called Lufasi. What's the full meaning of Lufasi?
Okay, Lufasi is an acronym. Lekki Urban Forest Animal Sanctuary Initiative.
When did it start?
Okay, so Lufasi was established 2014 November. By Desmond Majekodumi. He's an environmental activist. What we focus on and what we are creating awareness about is nature. We conserve forests, we protect the animals, and we also do environment education program, so like plastic waste pollution. There's some parts of Lagos, you know, you actually go to, you see like waste everywhere. When you come into Lufasi Park, you hardly like see waste on the floor.
How, do you get a lot of people come here, or are people always also shocked and say, so this kind of thing in Lagos?
Oh, yes, so yes, we do. We get that a lot because when people come in, they just feel like, oh, you mean you have this kind of place in Lagos? You have this type of place. So, you know, the answer is yes, we do. And, you know, more awareness still needs to be created. You know, people need to know something of this sort is even on Lekki, because the way people sell their lands, and you know, some people will kind of be like, estate, oh. But you know, by the time they understand the reason what we are standing for, you know, they get to be like, oh no, we really need this in our, society. This is what you need, because when you're coming into the park, if you want to relax, if you want to have your quiet time, the kind of air you even breathe in here. Oh.
You need to be here.
Toxin-free.
Toxin-free.
Especially this area that we have. This is called fern. These leaves that you can see like everywhere, even outside Lufasi Park, you get to see this fern leaf on the palm tree. So there's like a relationship between the fern leaf and the palm tree. When you go into the forest, you get to see some animals in their natural habitats.
What kind of animals?
Okay, so we have antelope in there, a civet cat.
Civet cat?
Yes, and then we have a tortoise that we rescue. Like I mentioned, we rescue them if they can still survive back in the forest.
Yeah.
If there's tendency for them to survive back in the forest, release them immediately, So we have, there's a tortoise there, we call her Mama T.
Show me.
Yes,
show me.
please. She's over 100 years.
100?
Over 100 years.
I saw one in Seychelles that is as old as this as well. So it's amazing to see something like
So this is a female one.
Wow.
This was rescued when it was still a baby, the African civet.
Civet cat. Oh, there are two?
Yes, there are two.
Are they wild?
We rescue them from baby. So that's...
So they are domesticated now?
Yes. And naturally also you can domesticate them. They call them opportunist eater.
Okay.
So anything at all you feed them with, they are good to go. So this one we do fruits, then cooked rice, we just do fruits, mainly sweets. They like sweet things.
Wow, amazing.
So this is Becky. Should we just brief us about the...
Hello, Becky.
Some funny monkeys that we have here.
And this is jungle.
Okay.
So this is green velvets.
Okay.
Then we have red cap manga bee.
Okay.
This one. So this very one have a story.
Tell me the story.
This one is Alice.
Alex.
Yes.
Okay.
Alice is a very stubborn one.
Very stubborn.
Yes.
Okay.
And also a jealous monkey. Doesn't like see man and woman together.
Really?
Yes. He gets angry when he see that because he have a lady before the lady divorced him. So ever since then.
Wait. Monkeys go through divorce as well.
They do.
Nice.
They do.
Okay.
And if they don't fall in love, they can't meet.
Ah.
So they need to understand themselves.
Each other.
Yeah, before they meet.
Can you hear that? Monkeys fall in love.
This is the lady that divorced him here.
Oh, and they are neighbors.
Yes, they are neighbors. So this is the lady. Her name is Rocky. She's
Rocky. What happened? So you're a makeup artist. What happened?
Don't worry, you're not doing anything.
What happened? Why did you divorce him?
Because the guy is not romantic.
It's not romantic. Sorry, we'll look for another one for you.
So that is Rocky. And then we have Stella. Stella!
Where's Stella? There she is. So who is Stella now?
This is Stella.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is the same green
velvet. Okay.
Yeah. So this is the same red cap manga bee. The same species with Alex.
Yeah.
I mean,
with Alex, yeah.
Yes, Alex.
Alex.
Then here we have Pincher. This is the same Mona monkey, that big one up there. So this is Pincher, and we have Jackie Chan, and also we have Value. Do you see the Value?
No. What?
So the tiny baby one. No one.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and also feed on everything. Feed on. They feed on rice, beans, spaghetti, indomie, amala, semo.
So there's some species of monkeys that the male ones are territorial.
Okay.
So they get to bring all that when they see humans, male and female together. So that's what make Alex to be aggressive sometimes when you see a male and a female together, thinking, oh, you're going to take the female away from him, or you want to come and, they domain their space. So they don't want any other male to come close. Yeah. We have a lake also.
We have a lake?
Yes, it's an artificial lake.
Lake.
We have different species of fish. Probably. No. Okay, so I get that also. When people come in, they will just be like, oh, you're just keeping the fish. Why not bring them out? Let's them and that. So, but during the festive period, do this kind of competition whereby, family comes and they do competition. We ask them to fish.
Okay.
Then if you have the big fish or the biggest one, we ask you to roast by yourself.
Yeah,
Nobody is going to do that for you.
So what kind of fishes do you have here?
Tilapia, fish, catfish.
I'm making my mouth just the
wash fish. So, mud fish. Yeah. Then we have a monitor lizard because they stay on land and inside the water. So this is like a sport zoo for lovers, you know.
Yes, come and sing love by the lake.
Yes, by the lake. We've had months back, years back, you know, we have different people coming to do their propose, you know. They just do their set and they'll be like, will you marry me?
And if you don't believe, you just throw inside water.
No, that is not allowed. You have to, you know, just carry them out.
That's a lot to take in, isn't it? Lufasi captures everything that's beautiful and the things I want to show you about Nigeria. I want you to explore the hidden gems that people don't talk about. Look at Lufasi, a place that tries to keep the natural habitat, even within the urbanized Lagos. There are so many places like this that Waka Waka World is going to explore. And this is just the beginning. So stay tuned and make sure you don't miss a thing.
Former Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro has been arrested abroad, triggering a wave of international reactions. Supporters decry it as political persecution, while critics welcome it as accountability. The arrest has reignited debates about sovereignty, diplomatic norms, and the role of international law in political leadership transitions across the world. The arrest effects are felt in Africa. Governments that have grappled with their own leadership crisis are watching closely. For Nigerians, the questions are immediate. What does this mean for norms around asylum, diplomatic protections, and the principle that political disagreements should be resolved through constitutional means, not force?
So to help us unpack this, we are joined by Tangsampa Zhu, international journalist. Welcome to Breakfast Extra. We spoke during the week, didn't we, Tam? You and I, and we spoke about this issue. But yet again, here we are, but with more time, and I'd like to find out from you exactly what are we looking at here when a sovereign nation invades, kidnaps head of state of another country, takes them to their country, puts them in court, and while they lay siege to their oil. What are we looking at here? What official reasons are being given for Maduro's arrest, and how does it affect geopolitics?
Good morning, Zeno. Good morning, Queen. Yeah, very interesting geopolitical topic, especially on a weekend. We need to be discussing these things more, especially after Waka Waka. People might probably think instead of looking for visas to go to Europe, they should come to Africa and see the beauty, the organic, the nice people. You know you are safe. You know you are getting everything as it is. I would think that with respect to Venezuela, legally, it's difficult to see anyone going against the U.S. We have seen that, especially at the Security Council level. There are certain things where people think, okay, this might be in breach of international law, or this might be, be falling foul to the international rules order that we have had since the Second World War. But countries will veto, those that have the veto power, the UN Security Council. So it then ceases to matter because they are using their military power. They're using the fact that they are a big country and there's nothing you can do about it. So it appears that that question is already water under the bridge. The administration in Caracas has a new leader in the form of former deputy to Maduro, who is Delcy Rodriguez. And when you hear her talk now with respect to the oil and the production and what needs to happen in the U.S., it appears that they are prepared to follow the American whip, the whip from Washington. So, I think we are where we are. And I know that in the next week or so, in the next few days, one of the opposition leaders, the Nobel Prize winner, Machado, will try to go to the White House and see President Trump to seek, permission to be involved somehow in what happens in Venezuela going forward. Yeah. It's difficult to know whether she will be accommodated, because it would appear that rather than operating full colonial with full colonial powers from Washington, they would prefer to work with people in the administration now, the army, the security services, but they just have to realign. So it's difficult to see where Machado will fit in. Mazina and Queen?
Yeah, so Mr. Zoll, I think now we see that, with this situation and, the debates and responses, a lot of different regions have, responded, either being an ally, either criticizing or just being a neutral state. What's your take on that and how the regions have found themselves in responding to this situation?
Except when you talk about China and Russia, it's difficult to see any other country that could publicly criticize, but being aware of what the consequences would be when you go against the mighty of the US. So the African Union, as we saw, put out a statement that is a generic, it's a template that is always sitting there in the cupboard waiting to be pulled out, and then it changes names depending on who you are talking about. The language is diplomatic. It is very careful language. So you would see that African countries have avoided, talking directly to that, except through the regional blocs and the AU. Russia and China have been quiet, but deliberately so, because there are always, negotiations behind the scenes. Because the Americans, before they did what they did in Venezuela, they would have wanted to know how the Russians would respond, how the Chinese would respond, and now they are going for Greenland, where those interests are also clashing. So, I mean, China has got Taiwan, Russia has got the issues with Ukraine, and you would think that they want the Americans to look away a little bit when they do that, and then they will say, well, you've got Venezuela going, exactly. Let's deal with what's happening within your region. You've got Cuba, you've got Colombia coming, you've got, all these other elections, the second round of elections that will come up at some point.
It seems exactly what you're saying. It seems like the world is being divided across the superpowers, and nobody should, don't touch my bit. You've got yours. I'm also very curious as to what signal this sends to the rest of the world if America can just go in and attack or kidnap or whatever frame you want to frame it, take a leader, bring them into the state, and then say, next week we're going for Greenland. But we'll talk about these implications when we come back from this break. I want to ask you what the implications are for all other countries that America has had interactions with recently. But don't go anywhere. Let's take that short break. We'll be back. Welcome back. It's our final session here for Breakfast Extra, and we're talking with Mr. Sankla Zul, journalist, and we are talking about the Maduro instance here, as the United States of America and its president have, taken the sovereign nation's president and flown him to New York in America, where he's standing trial for, many issues, one of which is narcotics. That was how the framing started. It started as narcotics. Eventually, we started seeing a different kind of dynamic here, where it's more about oil and who gets to keep the oil or sell it, and to whom, and at what denomination, or rather what currency. The dollar, petrodollars. That seems to be the main thing right now. So it's come from narcotics to petrodollars. Now, there are also, the United States is also eyeing Greenland for security reasons. This is not the first time that Trump had talked about Greenland, and all of a sudden we see him making moves. Now, he has also had certain mentions and framings when it comes to other nations. South Africa was white farmers' genocide, and in Nigeria it became Christian genocide. And you have to think, when Trump mentions your name as a country, you have to ask yourself, exactly what are we looking at here? What it seems like from the framing, or are there other interests? So for other nations who have been mentioned, sitting down and looking at Trump go after Venezuela and also suggest that he will take Greenland, what do you think they should be thinking right now? And I'm being specific. I'm asking, you know who I'm asking for.
Right. I think let's simplify it. As journalists, part of our job is to inform in a partial way what are the facts. So when you go to the American Congress, you'll find that there are documents and policies and laws that they pass, they discuss. In most cases, people don't take notice until things start happening. So going into Venezuela, talking about Greenland with rare earth and all that, it's not a coincidence. It's not an overnight thing. These are things that are already on paper. So when you go to the Congress, you'll find some documents on what they call critical minerals and how they can pursue American interests with respect to critical minerals. So when they talk about Nigeria, you know what they want. So what they want is, Nigeria has got a lot of, Nigeria has oil, there's minerals, it's got so much. So, you know, it is just a message to us, Rob, to say, let's have a conversation without dropping bombs, where we can, you know, look after each other's interest here. So countries like Nigeria will have to define what is it that Nigeria wants from America. Is it about the people going to the diaspora? Is it about, what is it exactly that's within the Nigerian interest that can be within the relationship with the US? And Washington will be very clear what they want. And at the moment, given their power, not just Nigeria or any other country, if you don't agree with them, they can still come in anyway. So, you know, you are in a Venezuela situation. Either you play ball, you give them what they want, but get something in return and you have your country intact, or you say, no, you're not going to have anything, you're going to defend your country, and it's difficult to see how militarily you can defend against the American. But the other point that you mentioned, Mazino, it is about managing what we call propaganda in journalism, or political spinning, doctoring of information, massaging international relations and what countries do. So President Trump is a direct president. He tells you what he's doing. He tells you what he wants. He wants oil. He wants that. But other, you know, administrations have been able to say, oh, there are weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Oh, Gaddafi doesn't want democracy. Oh, we are going to, I mean, the people of Syria are rising up. The result is the same. The aims are the same. It is just different language of approaching. He tells you what he wants from Greenland, but other people would have coined it differently. The results, the aims, the objectives are still the same. It is all about, as a nation, what resources do you need for your own people? So countries like Nigeria can't leave other people in poverty. When there's oil, when there's minerals, when there's, you know, land for agriculture, when there's all this kind of stuff. So it's all about, how do you protect your own interests? Where do you get that? So when President Trump goes to Democratic Republic of Congo and other places, there are trillions and trillions of what you call critical mineral deposits. He wants to secure that for the US. He goes for oil in Venezuela. He wants to secure that for the US. He goes to Greenland. It's rare earth. You want to remove the dependence on China. You want to secure that for the US so that you can compete. So it's very clear. His template is, you know, an open book. So the question for all these countries in Africa in particular, do you play ball? Do you negotiate for your thing? Or you surrender to the mighty of the bombs that might come your way. So that is the level of diplomatic engagement that needs to happen. President Trump doesn't like all these African leaders who go and say and kneel down, we'll give you everything. No, he wants people that are strong, that will show that when they go back to their own countries, they have the power to make the decisions they make, but they are also ready to defend their own countries and their own people, because that is his script. So if you are going to be a weak leader who goes to surrender everything, you are not likely to get much. You probably just laugh at you behind your back and take whatever you give him anyway. But if you go and you say, this is a big country, important country, and I want my people to have everything that I want, he's likely to respect you.
So, Temsa, I like what you said in terms of, you know, he's going for the ball. This is what I want for my country. I'm governing this country, and this is what we need, and he's aiming for it. And, you know, like you said, other people would come up with different scenarios and drama, but the goal is still the same. Now, my question would be, do you think him having to arrest Maduro was the right approach, or you feel like there would have been a better way for him to do this?
Okay, so my understanding is there was work that was put in by the military intelligence. They were able to get access to Maduro's team, people. So it was cheaper, it was less risky, and in terms of costing American lives, it was an operation that they calculated and thought just being able to take Maduro out to New York on whatever charges or whatever procedure, given the intelligence that they had, given the access that they'd been able to get, was the easiest thing that you could do. It saves American troops going in. It saves lives because you are now not fighting a war. It saves them money because they can simply say to that other administration, we already have all the information about you. We know where you live. Even if you change your house or your rooms, even if you change the house that you're going to be at on that night, they have information on you anyway. Even if within the same house you change 2 hours, you're sleeping in a different room, they still have information about you anyway, because they are giving the impression that they already are working with your bodyguards and all the people in the presidential guard. So you just have to conform. So for them, my understanding is they made a calculation to say just going there, walking into Maduro's bedroom, taking him to America was safer, or would cost less lives. You don't need then to invade Venezuela. You don't need to fight like they did in Afghanistan or Iraq or, you know, all these other countries where after spending billions and billions and many years, they still had to withdraw anyway. So this was the safest thing for them. It is difficult to see anybody else who would have done it anywhere else in the world. But this model might be a wake-up call to a lot of people, because any country they can go in as long as they have access to the people, the security services that are around the country's leaders.
Tamsaka, we want to say thank you very much for giving us your time this morning and also discussing this topic here. We do hope that whatever the situation is, we get to see, well, a people liberated from whether it's a past dictator or maybe even an invasion. We'll continue to follow the story and hope that we can always come to you to have these conversations when the time comes. Thank you very much, Mr. Zhu. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's a very interesting place Venezuela finds itself, but it's not far from where most countries who have been fingered by President Trump find themselves as well. And for those countries still in the backseat,
right,
I'm saying get your house in order because, yeah, you just seen what he's done.
Yeah, and I like what, you know, Tamsa said in terms of you have to ask yourself, what do you want from that relationship? Trump is trying, to him, he's trying to do what's best for Africa, for the United States.
I was going to say, where are you from?
For the United States. So for the African leaders, what is best for your country? What is best for your region? You go for it. You fight for it. You are supposed to be the one person, our soldier fighting. He's fighting for his people. Go and fight for yours. It's just that simple. But hey.
Well, I don't know if threats are our language and how we would adjust to that, but let's find out tomorrow what it is we're going to be talking about, only if you join us at 8 o'clock here for the Sunday edition of Breakfast Extra.
Yeah.
For us, for now, my name is Mazino Appeal, and of course, Queen Celestine will be joining you tomorrow morning, and she'll be giving a stellar monologue then. You want to make sure you join us bright and early.
Yeah.
Until then, it's goodbye.